Well, welcome to the City Rev Life podcast. My name is Pastor Robey, and we have a very, very special guest with us today. It is Kevin Enders, the president of 4Kids of South Florida, and so excited to hear from him. And the reason we've got Kevin with us today is because the month of May is National Foster Care Awareness Month. Did I say that right, Kevin? Is that right?
That's correct.
National Foster Care Awareness Month. Obviously, foster care is very close to our hearts as City Rev, and it's one of the ways that we feel called to love our city is to love on the least of these children and it's an opportunity to bring the mission field into our homes. And we particularly love 4Kids. And part of that, Kevin, is because my own sweet Rebecca was a part of 4Kids for 5 years. And we got a window as a 4Kids staff family into the incredible culture. I mean, there's just something special about 4Kids. I don't know exactly how to quantify it, but there is just really something special about 4Kids.
Yeah, thanks, Pastor. We're so excited to be here. I'll just tell you, it's Jesus. It's Jesus. It's really our focus on keeping our eyes fixed on him and really being a ministry. This is we're an extension of the local church, and we feel God even drawing us closer to him. And that, that is our special sauce for sure, is just our unfettered commitment to providing hope, homes, and healing for kids through love in Jesus Christ and exposing people to the love that he's shared with us.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And there's just a sense of, I don't know how to say it other than this, there is just a sense of the Holy Spirit. I feel like from day one in 4Kids, I've had an opportunity to share at 4Kids chapels before, their weekly chapel as a staff. And there's just a thing that happens there. I mean, there's just the staff is incredible, and the team that you have the privilege of leading, Kevin, they are on fire for reaching out to these children. And it is an incredible organization. We love 4Kids. But I want to just start. We're going to talk about the state of foster care right now, especially in an unusual season. I'd like to hear more about 4Kids and what's really brewing at 4Kids. But let's start with this. I would love, Kevin, for those who are listening or viewing this, to hear a little about your story, because back when Rebecca was working at 4Kids with foster parents, you were a foster parent at that point back then. And so I would love for our viewers, our listeners, to hear your journey to becoming the president at 4Kids.
Sure. Well, it all started with my wife and I in Christmas of 2005, giving our lives to Jesus. We were very religious growing up and grew up in a religious culture and family, went to church every week, but didn't know the Lord. And when we got saved in 2005, and then we got baptized in the spring of 2006, and really just prayed that God would show us, what plans he had for us. Through a lot of prayer, we heard the message about 4Kids at our church. And we both, within a couple days, knew that was God's calling in our lives.
Wow.
So in 2006, we went to 4Kids and went through the foster parent training classes, became licensed foster parents. And it's funny, the truth is, all we were thinking we were going to do is become what's called respite parents. We actually just got our toe in the water, thought, we'll just help out foster parents, because we had 3 kids at the time and certainly had a full life with me being an entrepreneur. But obviously God had different plans. We ended up getting licensed in 2007, had several foster kids in our home. Our youngest son at the time was 4, so we took in babies, and we had a lot of babies, sometimes more than one at a time, that were getting reunified or adopted. And we weren't sleeping at all. We were going through this crazy cycle, wondering, Lord, like, what are you doing? What's your plan? And then we got a little boy who was 2 months old in 2007. In the summer, we ended up adopting him in 2008. And then we went through a season of praying, okay, God, he was our 4th child. We thought, hey, 4 kids. It was kind of a corny joke at the time. We thought we were done. And we prayed through that summer of 2008. And in September, we got a phone call from our support worker at ChildNet, actually, and told us that our son had a sister that was born.
Wow.
And as tears were flowing down our faces, we knew that was an answer to our prayer for God to show us those great and mighty things, like Jeremiah prayed, right? Will show us great and mighty things that we do not know. And we brought our daughter home that October of 2008, adopted her in 2009. And it really completely just out of the yearning of our hearts to know what God's will was for our lives, being new believers, it really charted a course for us um, in our relationship with Four Kids as an organization. We knew it was a calling on our lives. So as we became adoptive parents, we got very involved with Four Kids, going to local churches, recruiting foster families. Um, I got to do several video testimonies personally as a family for Four Kids to help recruit families. And, you know, we were always involved, even my company and the organizations I worked for were financially supporting Four Kids, going to their galas. So there was always this connection point. And I know many of your listeners know Tom Lukasik, who's our vice president for outreach and church and community engagement. You know, Tom and I would eat breakfast every so often at Calvary Chapel at the Grill. And we had a meeting in 2016 when Pastor Doug Sauter, who used to be the president of Four Kids, got his promotion at Calvary Chapel, Fort Lauderdale, to be senior pastor, and there was a void. And Four Kids had been searching really the country to find the next president, because Four Kids, as you all know, and you guys are great supporters, has a very unique and very strong presence, not only here in Florida, but across the country as a premier foster care ministry, a Christian foster care ministry. And I just went to breakfast with Tom one day, and he asked me, "Can I throw your name in the hat? Would you be interested?" And at that time, my career was taking off. I was a senior vice president for a global technology firm, a $500 million company, managed major clients in the US and Canada. But when God puts that calling on your life, you know, if you seek him with all your heart, he reveals to you what his plans are. And it was profoundly clear to me that I had to walk away from a 30-year business career. I was in line to be probably a CEO candidate for this major technology firm. But as I was going through that season in the Christmas of 2016, every time I turned on the radio, you know, I'd hear the story about the rich young ruler, or, you know, like, would you give it all? Would you really just walk away? And the pastor at my church at the time was teaching a series on these unexpected gifts we receive from Jesus. And it was just profoundly clear that that was my time. And I know that's not everybody's story. Went through LifeWork Leadership. I love NCF and LifeWork Leadership at keeping people in the working community and how impactful that is. But for me, there was no doubt that it was God's clear calling, that he had prepared me through all my business career of 30 years, becoming a foster and adoptive parent, and really practicing sharing my story. Every time I was on an airplane, didn't matter what country I was in, I was always constantly out there sharing the love of God and how he had changed my life and how it led to this heart for kids, for orphans, vulnerable children. And so that's kind of the story. It was really profound. And now it's been 3.5 years I've been leading Four Kids, and just to see his hand not only upon me and my family, but upon the ministry has really been something to behold. I love that word in the Bible. Just to sit back and behold what the Lord has done in inheriting a great ministry after 20 years and 20,000 kids impacted, you know, through 2016, from a very well-known and respected pastor, Pastor Doug, who's really a mentor and a friend. But God is still working, and he's growing us, and he's pressing, he's pushing. And our heart is to just follow his lead as we go into the future. So that's a little bit about my story.
I love your story. Of course, it's not the first time you've shared with me your story. I love hearing your story. I'm so glad that our listeners and our viewers can hear the story, because here you are active in the marketplace, being an instrument of the Lord in the marketplace, you know, sharing your story. And that's so important. But there is a unique call that he was calling you out of the marketplace into Four Kids. And I love that your journey was just starting with, what can I do right now? What can I do right now is take a foster child into my home. And so you're leading, and your family is it's not just a concept for you all, it's your story. And you have children in your home that you have fostered, and some that you fostered to adopted. And that's just beautiful. That's amazing, Kevin. So, you know, before we go on, can I just ask a follow-up question? You talked about Four Kids having national recognition. And, you know, we love hearing that at City Rev. I'm aware of some of that, but some of our listeners may not be aware about to the degree that 4Kids is influencing the foster care picture nationally. Can you just speak to that a little bit? Because I think that would be a huge encouragement. You know, we as City Rev, some of you know, we as City Rev are not just partners as far as supplying foster families, but we're financial partners with 4Kids. Every dollar that's given to City Rev, a piece of that goes to 4Kids. And so we're invested. So when we hear those victories, that is a celebration for us. So can you just share a little bit about that? How is 4Kids having that national influence?
Yeah, I'd love to, because you're right. A lot of people don't realize, because we operate in 6 counties here in South Florida, from Broward, Palm Beach, up into the Treasure Coast. But I got to tell you, as soon as I landed at 4Kids in February 2017, the phone started ringing off the hook from leaders across the country wanting to meet me at this conference we go to every year called Christian Alliance for Orphans. It's usually Dallas, Nashville, somewhere. We've hosted in South Florida back in 2008. But, it really opened my eyes to the impact. And 4Kids has always tried to show in our annual reports or, year-end reports, the impact that we've had an influence to really start organizations, some that are now statewide, really give the credit to those earlier years when Pastor Doug, Tom Lukasik, and the team were traveling the country and just sharing what the Lord was doing here. Because I get at that time, it was very unique, the way that we were engaging the church, being this bridge between the government and the church, and really watching that take place. And so as I traveled, Robey, I got to tell you, I got to meet many great leaders, CEOs of large, and like I said, statewide organizations that really give all the credit back to 4Kids, that we started because of what you were doing. And it could be pieces of what we do, or the whole enchilada, so to speak, of the continuum of care that we do. And so we've, Tom Lukasik, again, was always in leadership roles on, Christian Alliance for Orphans or the Florida Coalition for Children, these great organizations where it brings leaders together, some faith-based, like the Christian Alliance for Orphans, some non-faith-based, but the influence was clear from, I'm talking Arizona, California, Texas, Oklahoma. Now we've developed great partnerships and friendships with Alabama and organizations in Georgia. Like what the Lord has done just in the last 8 months through this collective impact, what you guys see and what we see here at Church United, and how that's come together in a new way. I can tell you, during my course of being at 4Kids, which is only 3 years, we've seen a tremendous movement of the Lord across the country. Even in the last 6 to 9 months, where the Christian Alliance for Orphans is not a foster care agency, they're a convener. And when they bring groups together, and I went to 2 exceptional retreats last fall, September and November, in Georgia and North Carolina, where they're bringing in CEOs and leaders from faith-based organizations across the country. And the synergy that has come out of that, I mean, I'm actively working together with Faith Bridge Foster Care in Atlanta on how to recruit families better, Alabama Baptist Children's Home, which covers the state of Alabama, on how to administer our therapeutic care, Texas, Olive Crest in California, on how to raise money. And it's interesting how God has given us each unique talents, but together, we always say that, right? Together we're better. And I'm telling you,
yes,
it's happening at a very profound level. And we see this movement of collective impact really starting to spring forth. It's really tremendous.
That is so exciting. And that is an encouragement to me. I hope it is for you as you're listening or watching this episode, that as we are supporting, encouraging, partnering with 4Kids, we're not only rescuing our modern day orphans out of our community, but we're also helping foster care agencies around the country. So as we are fueling 4Kids forward, we're fueling one of the leading entities, I think, nationally, and that is just unapologetically Jesus-centered. And they're having an influence in cities all over the country. Man, that is so, so exciting. And thank you for sharing that. Tell us a little bit about in these, unprecedented times with this pandemic, that is having an impact on the foster care scope and what's happening in homes I would imagine around the country, but let's specifically talk about our region and our city. Can you just speak to that? How is this pandemic affecting the foster care picture?
Yeah, sure. Great question again. And let me pause on what you said, because for your listeners and for your church, I mean, your church has been so amazing in supporting us. They really need to take pause and again, maybe they can focus on that word I said about just beholding what the Lord has done through their faithfulness, through their support. You guys are really um, setting a high mark for other churches as far as your heart and commitment. And I think that you guys see how the Lord is blessing that commitment. And that, Robey, is really a testament to your faithfulness. I just want to make sure that we get that out, that for kids,
Thank you,
like, we cannot exist without the support of the local church, the prayers of the local church, and our friends and partners. You know, financially, we rely completely on funds from the community to do. I mean, the government contracts don't really support what we do. And it's really that, again, it's that ministry of generosity that pours out through you guys being advocates. So I really just want to make sure that everybody at City Rev Church knows how grateful we are, because we could not do this without your leadership and support as well. So thank you to everyone that's listening.
It's our honor, and church, I mean, what a blessing to get to be a part of what's happening at 4Kids and to be a small piece of that story. It's our honor, and especially in times like these when it's needed more now than ever.
Yeah, it is. So let me tell you a little bit about the State of the Union. You know, our staff really went to a working remote stance 4 weeks ago, this past Wednesday, and I am just so proud of the team that I get to lead. We truly have some of the finest leaders that I think we would stand against any organization across the country. And the Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. And you know, it's marvelous what God has done. Just the way that 4Kids team has responded. First of all, obviously, our focus is always on making sure we provide the best love and care and support for our families and the children we serve. So we have really innovated and created a lot of new content, which is found on our website that I know you're going to share later, where we're doing videos to help parents, parenting tips, weekly parenting tips. For those of you that don't know, we have a whole new therapeutic wing to what we do that has really sprung forth over the last 3 years. We've got an army of Christian therapists that work with our parents and our families and our children directly. And immediately when this thing, you know, started to evolve, we had to flip virtually. And so we are providing virtual therapy for all of our children and families that were in our care. We're continuing to recruit families, working with churches to make sure that people are aware that as you hear about the shutdown that the coronavirus has caused, and when you start hearing, if your listeners haven't become aware, you know, about the stress. I mean, 22 million people out of jobs, right? And even good families, I know, because now we're working from home, we're homeschooling all of our children, like the stress that it can put on a family unit is real. So we said, how can we help our families, and any family? Because if you go to our website, the number 4kids.us, and like I said, I know we'll talk about that, there's content that helps anybody. You don't have to be a foster or adopted family to apply some of the great content that we're putting out to our families. But some of the statistics we've heard regionally, and this is pretty staggering, domestic violence from March 6th to April 6th in the Treasure Coast, which is just north of Palm Beach County, 4 different counties in the Treasure Coast, is up 79%. Domestic violence calls are up 79%. In Palm Beach County, it's up 18%. We haven't been able to get a statistic yet out of Broward County, but if you just think about how all this trauma is going to trickle down, and you hear our national leaders talking about, you know, the rise in probably drug abuse, alcohol abuse, suicide, you know, anxiety, depression, all those things. And I would just ask you and all of us to keep praying for the children that are going to be coming as a result of that. So what we believe, God has just birthed in us this spirit, you know, as Isaiah prayed, like this new thing that's going to spring forth. And that for us is making sure that we are being very aggressive during this time to be able to recruit families, to get the funding we need to not only continue operations, but grow, because we believe, and most people in our in our circles of social services believe that there's this wave that's coming. Because typically in a normal year, I'll share this with you, in a normal year when summer comes and kids go away from school, when we come back in August, crisis calls and kids coming into the system increases between 15 and 20%. Why is that? Statistically, nationally, it's known that 1 out of 5 crisis calls come from teachers. So 20% of crisis calls when kids, abuse hotline calls come from teachers. So if kids aren't in school, the teachers aren't seeing the bruises, the marks, the abuse, right? So we know that that's one number. The other, even more staggering number, is that only 14%, I think I read, of abuse calls come from the immediate family. So as kids are sheltering in their home, think about that. That could mean 86% of the eyes that would be on children. It's like my wife goes to the store, she's not bringing the kids. So, you're not bringing your kids out. So, man, our heart is yearning and breaking for what we believe is the unseen reality behind what's going on with this crisis. And, and you can hear it in my voice, like we are emboldened. And I think that's from the Spirit of the Lord, just getting us prepared to be able to care for the kids and families that we're soon to see. So it's some staggering, I know it's some really sobering and staggering statistics, but if you Google it, you watch the news, there's been several articles posted across the country from the New York Times, CBS News, but also local news and I've been praying that someone would actually reach our leadership in Washington so they start thinking about the children.
So let me just kind of recap that, Kevin, because that is, that is heart-wrenching and sobering to say the least. Let me see if I can understand this. So right now we know that domestic abuse is increasing because of the calls that are going in. We know that is true. So we know that because of we can logically see why people are under more stress, financial stress, health stress, medical stress, economic stress. There's more stress. We know that domestic abuse is going up, but because we're all sheltering at home, there are not eyes on these children. There's not daycare workers, and there's not, therapists, and there's not teachers, and the people who typically, and a lot of times extended family, they are there with no one seeing these children. And in the same way that like after summertime, there is an escalation of calls, I think it's probably safe to expect that when the sheltering at home disappears and now we're all meeting back together, that is when there's going to be a wave coming of abuse reports and children in shelters and a need for foster homes. Is that a good recap? So then let me say this. Two things I just feel an overwhelming urgency for right now is we as individuals, as churches, we have to pray for these sweet children the heart of Jesus, who just loves these children, has to be absolutely breaking because he's seeing what these helpless little ones are going through all alone with no one to advocate. We have to pray for them. And secondly, what's on my heart as I'm hearing you, Kevin, now it's leaders look down the road and they anticipate as best they can, and they prepare. None of us could have anticipated the coronavirus, I don't think. But we can anticipate a rise in a need for foster parents. So this is the time, if there was ever someone who was thinking about becoming a foster parent, felt that nudge, this is the time. This is the time for the South Florida church to have a surge of foster families signing up, being ready, so that when that spike of children that need homes, that they are going in 4Kids homes. They are going in homes that are Christian homes where these children are going to come in and feel the love of Jesus, hear the message of Jesus, and find healing. And I just feel this urgency for that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's why we've been able to innovate during this crisis. And now we are holding all of our foster parent orientations virtually. We've gotten
Okay.
approval from the state to do that virtually, even our foster parent training classes. So if you think about, you know, it used to be hard. You have to come in, you have to go to class, you'd have to make time. Now we can do it virtually. We can start the process now. So I'm right there with you. I mean, I think as we heard the president and the task force kind of unveil the new plans of these transition points of getting back to normal or some normal, getting back to work, now's the time for us to press in. And I've just, you know,
Okay.
as I taught at our weekly Devo this week, it was about just that pressing in, that perseverance. And, you know, we are feeling that push from the Lord to press in. I just want to read, if I could, Psalm 82 verses
Yes.
3 and 4. Psalm 82 verse 3 and 4 says, defend the poor and the fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy, deliver the poor and needy, free them from the hand of the wicked. I mean,
Wow.
this is one of our foundational verses, where we feel like this call that the Lord has really put on all believers. This isn't just for people at Four Kids or just for people at City Rev Church. Anybody that calls on Jesus as Lord and reads through these Psalms, starting in Psalm 68, Psalm 82, it's all over, you know, the word is that we have to defend, do justice, and deliver, and be there to make sure that we are helping to be protectors of our youth and vulnerable kids.
So Kevin, as someone listening right now or watching right now, they're saying, okay, I just need to take a step one. I can't conceive of having a child placed in my home yet, but I want to, in obedience, I'm feeling a nudge. My heart is breaking hearing this story. I want to take one more step in this journey of discerning the calling to become a foster parent. I want to take one step and just towards being a foster family. What's step one? You know, again, they're not signing on the dotted line yet, but they're just saying, do I talk to someone? Can I get some training? What's step one, Kevin?
Yeah, great question. So we made it as easy as we could at Four Kids. If anybody that's interested would just visit our website, and our website is the number 4 kids.us, the number 4 kids.us. On our main page, there's a way that you can connect if you're interested in fostering. There's a connection right there. It's like, I want to learn more about how to foster. There's also a banner on our website now that's saying basically we're in this together. And if you click that button that says learn more, that'll take you to another page that really will outline some of the other ways you can connect. And we've tried, again, make it really simple. I love how the Lord works in threes. I was reading through the book of Acts this week, and it was like, I think within 2 chapters, I heard the number 3 like 14 times. So this is what we're asking people to do. Pray. Everybody can pray. Everybody should be praying that, you know, pray for these kids, these unseen families that are going through crisis and stress. Pray for our current foster and adoptive families and the kids that are in their care, all of our different things. So there's a list of things. We've actually created a menu, a daily prayer menu that we're going to be launching very shortly on our website, so that if people want to just follow through every day, we've really made it simple on what we feel are the most important things that we would ask you to pray about. The second way is to donate. And like you said, you guys have been extremely faithful financially, but people that are out there, and we're seeing a great outpouring, Robey. It's been amazing to see the community, people just saying, you know what, I can give, I'm going to give, even though things might be uncertain, that God has blessed many. So continue to financially support us. And really the third point is to connect. Get connected to Four Kids in our social media, because we've got an amazing team that's pushing out this content. So you can connect with us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, where you're going to see every week updates on real stories in our community of kids that are being removed that we're not able to place. Obviously, we changed their names and their identities, but we're telling real stories of what's going on in South Florida. And this week, actually, I think today, we'll be launching a video in a few hours that's going to talk about some of the positive stories. So, because we all are getting beaten down by the crisis. So we really wanted to show you guys, hey, families are stepping up. Last week we had, I think, 8 families in our orientation class to become foster parents. So people are hearing the call of the Lord, they're pressing in, and kids are still being placed, siblings teens, young children, like kids are still being placed. People need to know that this, this work of the Lord is still continuing. So connecting with us is very important. So that's it. Pray, give, connect.
All right, so City Rev Church and all of you who are listeners or watchers or viewers of the City Rev Life podcast, you've heard it right from Kevin Enders, president of 4Kids. I want to challenge you today. We don't want to just be hearers of the word. We want to be doers of the word. And we just heard from Psalm, is it 82 that you just read, Kevin? Psalm 82, we are commanded. It's not an option to take care of those that are needy. Imagine the heart of Jesus towards children. It's not an option. We can't hear that passage and do nothing. So here's what we are challenged to do. You've heard, how can we help? Here's 3 things. Pray. I want to challenge every single listener on this episode to stop at the end of this. First and foremost, I want you to pray. Pray for Kevin. Pray for his family. Pray for the leaders and staff of 4Kids. I want to challenge you to pray for the children, and I want you to pray, God, what are you calling me to do? And I also want you to go to 4Kids, as in the number 4 KIDS.US, and there's a prayer guide right there that you can get off that website. Let's be obedient. After this, I want you to stop and pray. Second thing is, I want to challenge you to give. If you can in this season, I want to challenge you to give to 4Kids. As you are giving to City Rev Church, you are through your church giving to 4Kids. But let's go beyond that. So over and above what you're giving to your church, I want to challenge you to go to 4Kids and give, be a donor, and consider being a regular donor. I mean, this is going directly to the neediest in our community. Needy children who need a home is some of the neediest in our city. If we're loving our city, that's one thing that we need to be doing. So I want to challenge you: pray, give, and then connect. If you're on social media, you should definitely be engaging what's going on at 4Kids. But let me add 2 more things. I want to challenge us. Let's rise up as a church. We say we love this city. That means we love these needy children. I would love, at the other end of this, City Rev, to hear that more foster parents rose up, more foster families took a step, found out more about how to become foster families, at least explored that. And so I want to challenge you to do that. Here's what I want you to do. If you're interested in either becoming a foster family, or we are part of what's called FAM. These are the families that support the foster families in our midst. So if you say, look, I know I cannot take children into my home right now, but I can take meals and help those foster families at City Rev Church, at my church, then I want to challenge you to step up and be a part of either being a foster family or a part of FAM. And if you're interested in that, just email foster@cityrev.org, foster@cityrev.org, and say, I want more information about being a foster family or being a part of FAM. Hey, church, let's rally through this season, and let's be a part of God turning this season around for good and reaching these children. Kevin, as we're wrapping up this episode, any final things on your heart that you want to share? Anything else that we need to know about 4Kids, or ways we can be partnering with you or praying for you?
I mean, I think we did a really good job. So I'll just give praise and thanks to the Holy Spirit for leading and guiding our conversation. This timing is perfect. And I would just encourage you guys, just like you're encouraging your body, Lord is sovereign. As you reached out and said, hey, do I want to do this podcast? I mean, we're going right into the month of May, which again is National Foster Care Awareness Month. It's a big month for us every spring to raise awareness, to get people involved, and to raise funds that we need to continue what we're doing. But I'm just going to tell you, I'm so thankful at the way the Lord is moving. He's really encouraging his body of believers to be that salt and light and that sweet aroma in this time. And I feel like, again, it's an unprecedented time and a great opportunity for us to give glory to God. I mean, as we're kind of coming off this great weekend, right? This great Friday and Resurrection Sunday. And as we're recording this, just that momentum that, Jesus he's given us everything we need. You know, he calls us more than conquerors in Christ. And so I'm really encouraged. I really am really strongly encouraged. Even as we're working remotely, the Lord is working. I love, love, love the song. You know, he is always working. Even when we don't see it, even when we don't feel it, the Lord is working. So just what I'm encouraging my staff to do is to press in to the Lord, is to just go deeper, which again is a great next step from what Church United did last fall. It's like, how can we come together? How do we go deeper with the Lord? How can we press in during these times? And we know from the Word that all this testing produces a perseverance and a character and a hope that does not disappoint. And we all know when we at 4Kids talk about hope, homes, and healing, it's the hope that we have in Jesus, that this opportunity, certainly through a crisis, an international pandemic, has really allowed the church a time to shine. So we're praying for our church. You know, we're fervent prayers as well. We have daily prayer hour. We have a daily prayer email that our board of directors constantly is praying. And, you know, it's inclusive of you, our church, our local church, the church across the country and across the world. So I'm really encouraged, again, just comforted by God's perfect timing, that he knew we'd be having this conversation before the world began. So I appreciate you, Robey, so much, and Rebecca, and who you are in Christ and what you're doing. So thank you.
Well, Kevin, it's our honor to partner with you all. Just know, on behalf of City Rev Church, we are behind you. We love you guys, and are so grateful to be in the trenches with you, reaching this city that we love in the least of these. We're cheering you on. We're behind you. We love you, and expectant for what the Lord is going to do here in our city. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us, Kevin, and thank you for joining us on the City Rev Life podcast. And awesome episode to kick off the month of May and the National Foster Care Awareness Month, and so many great things that we can step in and take action to do. So thank you for joining us on our podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for joining us on City Rev Life. You can subscribe to this podcast, rate and review wherever you're listening to this. And we love it when you share it with your friends on social media. For more videos and content, go ahead and check us out at cityrev.org/podcast or download our City Rev Church app. Have a great day.